Netflix story. Why Netflix is collapsing. The whole truth. Will Netflix still be around in the future, or is it on the decline? We've all heard the saying that the first step to being successful is accepting where you've gone wrong. And maybe they've accepted that and come up with a solution because this is the second time in a decade that they've lost so many followers. Is this the beginning of the end for the most popular streaming service in the world? How are they planning to avoid the collapse of the most famous streaming platform? Let's find out. Is Netflix actually declining? Netflix announced a decline in subscriber growth for the second consecutive quarter in 2022 because the share price started dropping right after the Q1 announcement. But still, with about 221 million customers worldwide, Netflix is still the most popular streaming service. Its second quarter subscriber loss of 970,000 was actually less than the 2 million it had predicted, and the share price had started to climb back up again. But more on how they did that later. Kodak, Blockbuster, BlackBerry, and Yahoo are just a few examples of powerful businesses that paid a heavy price for their failure to adapt quickly to change. And now that Amazon Prime has officially topped 200 million users for the first time, Netflix is in serious danger of losing its position as the world's top streaming service, even though saying Amazon Prime and chill doesn't quite have the same ring to it. The truth is that Amazon Prime might leave Netflix in the dust pretty soon and look back at it the same way Jeff Bezos looked back at Earth when he went into orbit. Amazon Prime is just the tip of the iceberg, though. Disney Plus is a whole other animal with all the exciting stuff Marvel Studios has to offer, like Hulk twerking with Megan Thee Stallion. Although Netflix was the first large-scale streaming service and didn't have any competition in the beginning, times have changed and there have been a lot of new streaming services in the past decade. Despite being the more recent additions to the streaming scene, Amazon Prime and Disney Plus both have considerable working capital advantages and a very diversified portfolio of both content and businesses, so they shouldn't be taken lightly. Disney Plus alone has a lot of blockbusters that are famous, like the whole Avengers series, starting from Iron Man 1 to Avengers Endgame. There are several factors contributing to Netflix's collapse, the first of which is a lack of high-quality content. Many subscribers have already seen almost everything Netflix has to offer, with a very small majority of new shows and movies. So they really need to step up their game and introduce all the latest shows like House of the Dragon on HBO, which is about Khaleesi's Targaryen's bloodline, which practically everybody who's watched Game of Thrones knows about. People love this sort of content, and it pays off to give customers what they want. Letting Captain America wield Thor's hammer is another example of something Disney did to make the audience go wild. Netflix just doesn't seem to be getting a hint. Can Netflix recover? Along with the content saturation threshold, many streamers have started to rethink their expenditures in the aftermath of COVID-19. The demand for disposable cash has grown as life has resumed after lockdowns. So people don't need streaming services as much as they did when they were out of work during lockdowns. Because of this, some customers are now driven to pick between streaming services, and for parents, Disney Plus could now be taking priority for the first time. Password sharing among relatives and friends has also become a problem for Netflix and other streaming services. But let's not forget that Netflix established its famous empire by embracing a creative and dynamic culture. As a result, Netflix is perhaps the strongest company to respond to evolving market conditions. It has already taken steps to fix the most urgent matters. Netflix strategy. The streaming giant is about to launch a lower-cost product that is backed by advertising revenue in an effort to start attracting new customers or keep subscribers who are unable to afford Netflix. In many ways, it's similar to several Spotify accounts you can sign up for. In fact, Microsoft and Netflix are already collaborating on an ad-supported business model. In its most recent shareholder letter, Netflix officials announced that they'll probably start in a few markets where advertising expenditure is high. Like most of their new projects, they plan to launch it, gather feedback, and quickly adapt to make it even better. As part of its strategy to promote the platform as a go-to source for entertainment, Netflix is also focused on expanding its selection of online games. Additionally, they recently announced that they have acquired Animal Logic, the famous animation studio behind Hollywood hits like Happy Feet, Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, the Lego Movie series, and Peter Rabbit. So this could definitely work in Netflix's favor. Who doesn't like games? We bet the kids would love it. As for the adults, they've recently added new stuff like Purple Hearts and Dahmer that came to Netflix rescue and got them lots of new subscribers. Considering Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer and sex offender, this season, in particular, saving Netflix is pretty ironic, don't you think? After the addition of new shows like Dahmer and movies like Purple Hearts, Netflix shares climbed as much as 12% to $268.88 in extended trade. The stock was down 60% this year through the close on Tuesday in New York. Millions of new viewers were drawn in during the third quarter thanks to a solid lineup of new shows. They kicked off their strategy by releasing Stranger Things, one of the most watched TV shows in the world, and premiering new episodes to draw in more users. Plus, Netflix released the Korean blockbusters Extraordinary Attorney Woo, The Gray Man, and Purple Hearts, as well as the true crime drama monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, which is currently the platform's second most watched English language original series. Are the odds in Netflix's favor? Well, Netflix should be expecting a major subscriber collapse unless the new season of The Witcher or something equally as famous can retain or bring in new customers. Maybe they should figure out a way to bring Black Adam to Netflix. But for now, it's pretty bad because a consumer survey indicates that 25% of subscribers are planning to dump their subscriptions this year. And if that happens, it would be pretty bad for business. But what are the odds? Well, although the streaming service saw back-to-back periods of subscriber losses in the first 2 quarters of the year, and its second decline in more than a decade, the streamer also pledged it would return in the last quarter, and it seems to be owning up to it. Plus, it's not that bad. People are still tuning in. Netflix is still the most widely used streaming service and the one that the majority of subscribers would want to have above all others, despite the fact that users hate its high price and lack of new shows and movies. According to Variety, 31% of users said Netflix was the only service they would continue to use, while just 19% said they would continue using HBO Max, and 17% said they would continue using Disney and Comcast-owned Hulu. Netflix continues to be the most popular streaming service, available in around 3/4 of all U.S. households. Consumers subscribe to an average of 4 different streaming services. More people watch it than any other. Even Amazon Prime Video, which isn't actually used for watching movies anyway, With the new saturation of streaming services, a big crash may take place in the future anyway. When Disney ultimately buys Comcast's stake in 2024, for instance, it may decide to merge Hulu into Disney Plus, and Warner Brothers may decide to merge Discovery Plus into HBO Max. This could disrupt the whole streaming service market. Losing customers isn't the end of the world, even if it's painful for Netflix to witness losing users, especially after more than 10 years of continuous growth. We have to admit that all this happened under very special circumstances. In particular, COVID and its aftermath has forced the majority of people in the middle classes to live paycheck to paycheck. It remains to be seen if Netflix can keep its position as the global leader in streaming because, with Amazon Prime and Disney Plus at the 2 million user level, it's alarming. The major concern is whether the current decline will continue or whether or not Netflix will manage to stay on top. Only time will tell if it can adjust and adapt quickly enough. Ultimately, it's up to us as consumers to choose which platforms we want to use and which ones we should ignore. Consumers nowadays have a ton of alternatives, so Netflix needs to innovate constantly to retain its subscription base. What do you think? Should they introduce more shows? Let us know in the comments below. That's it